All right, all right, all right. Good morning, mob family. How is everyone today? Welcome to Mob Kaffeeklatsch episode 106. And I was informed by our usual greeter, opener, Zoya, who says, you have to let everyone know that I said hello. So she's giving a huge shout out to everyone because she's at school. And her older sister, Rain, is also the older Valkyrie, says, you have to shout out. I have to give a shout out too. So she's giving her own shout out. Ray didn't ask for a shout out, but I'm going to shout out Ray as well. Huh? For sure. Yes. So good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Let's see. Let me get to the comments and let me start greeting everybody. Sure. This works perfectly before. Now it's like all slow. All right, here we go. I'm serious. It was working fine, like not 5 minutes ago. All right. Hello, Connie. Chris Mendoza. Renee, good morning. Our wiki fandom page. Let me click that on. Show this. Show. See if it shows up. Is it showing? Acting funky. Jasmine, your name shows up. Yes, it does. Awesome. That's our wiki fandom page. Who else is here? Hello, Heather. Good morning. People saying hello. It's actually much smoother now. Let's see what else we got. Connie's here. Jasmine's here. Stacy, why are you totally stressed out, Stacy? Good morning. And we'll say hi to everybody on YouTube in a moment. It's kind of 27. That's really cold. Here it's like 60. It's really nice. Oh, thank you, Jasmine, for letting us know. It's Stacy. Letting me know that Stacy's okay. Please say a big hello to Stacy. Look when it just showed up now on my page. Hiding stuff. Okay. So let Stacy know I said hello. Is it? Can you see it? Am I looking clear? Blurry? How do I get my sister sent to Haven? Yikes. She's in an ICU confining doctors with a perfect storm set of occurrences. Oh, wow. That's tough. Yeah, if I could get you a way to send her to Haven, I definitely would, for sure. Audrey, good morning. Facebook user. Who's the Facebook user? Stay away from the wiki page right now. Is it really? I haven't looked at it yet. If you haven't seen the wiki page, go look at the wiki page. Right above Audrey. It's recent. Jim? Good morning, Jim. Welcome. So don't forget to go to StreamYard and give them permission so that way I know who's posting what. For some reason, they do this Facebook user thing where you can't get your name. Your name won't show up unless you give them permissions to show your name. Stacy says, and it's totally unique to the doctors, so treating her as a guessing game. Yeah, Roxanne would have had her set up fine. One of the things I've learned about the medical profession, and one of the reasons why when doctors open an office or their own, situation, it's called a practice. Because many times they are basically just guessing to see what would work. Good morning, Evan. Welcome. I thought I saw your name earlier, but it's the feed is going fast. So good morning. If I haven't said good morning to you, good morning. And you can apply that to wherever time zone you're in at the moment. So Stacey, I do hope it does get resolved because that's always tough when the doctors don't know. And it goes to show just how much there's still left to learn about the human body and the things that can ail us, Let's see, who's this? This looks amazing. That's you, isn't it? Okay. Who's the fake morning? Who's Martin? Margaret. Who? Margaret? Martin is Paige. Paige, good morning. I didn't see your hand wave, so I didn't recognize you. Good morning, Paige. Welcome. Let's see. All right, how many people we got? Okay, let's get into the announcements. Huge shout outs to everyone on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Hello, world. On YouTube, we're at Bitten Peaches, storyteller. So when you get a chance, spread the word. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers, so please let everybody know. Send them to our page. Tell them to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you know when we're here. And let me put this up. Even though it's going to take a year to show up on my end, but I know it's going to show up fast on your end. But yeah, so on YouTube, oh wow, that was quick. Look at that. Boom. So that's what we're on YouTube, Bitten Peaches Publishing. Just spread the word. I really appreciate it. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers, please. That would be fantastic. So there's no time frame, but the sooner the better. It'd be great. We want to kind of start growing the YouTube channel a bit. And so go like, subscribe, share, and let's get a lot of people on the YouTube channel. Okay. On Instagram, I haven't put anything up on Instagram in a while. I gotta start putting up Instagram stuff. So on Instagram, we're at Bitten Peaches. There's some snippets. I put an entropy. This is the last thing I put on Instagram. So I'm trying to diversify a little bit what we're doing on Instagram. So I'm gonna start putting up book covers, notices when books are coming out, launching, that kind of stuff. So don't forget to follow us on Instagram. Let's see if we can do this, and it shows up quick. Show. It's gonna take a little while, but we'll see. So we're on Instagram as well, at Instagram at Bitten Peaches. So go there. This is gonna show up in a moment because right now it's on Bitten Peaches YouTube, but it should show up Instagram. So our Instagram link, there it goes. Wow, I'm impressed. So that's our Instagram link. Go there. You're gonna see excerpts from the books. You're gonna see pictures from the books, covers. I'm gonna start putting up more covers, more art from the books, and do that. So that'll be awesome. YouTube has 2 channels. So I'm gonna put up this other link for YouTube. What's the difference in the 2 links? Okay, we'll put it Chris's link. This is our YouTube. All right, and yeah, so let's because I usually end up forgetting, or then we're pressed for time at the end, and then I'm rushing through it. We're gonna do the book promos. Thank you, Chris, for the heads up. So we're gonna do the book promos now, so we can do it nice and casual, relaxed, talk a little bit about the books and the authors. So the first author we have is M.M. Crumley. Oh, look, the thing's changed already so quickly. It's great. So I'm gonna try to hit the link. So same link, 2 different name extensions. YouTube is crazy sometimes. Yeah, I know. All right, so M.M. Crumley, she writes some great books. She is basically I want to say the Immortal Doc Holliday series. If you read that, you know who M.M. Crumley is. So currently she's writing a 7-book complete series, or she has a 7-book complete series, The Legend of Andrew Rufus. So go grab that, and I gotta have my shirt. We support indie authors. Where's my shirt? It's gonna be in the swag. The mob supports indie authors, so we support our indie authors. Is it up on your page, the link? Because it's kind of okay. Good. Not here. Look. All right. So M.M. Crumley, go get her books series. It's a 7-book series, so that's awesome, and it's complete. Which is one of the things that people usually tell me, like, "Oh, the book isn't complete, or the series isn't complete, so I don't want to get it yet." You know, what if something happens and they can't finish the series? It does. I mean, that's what happened with Robert Jordan, right? But go support the indie author. Get the books, okay? Next author up is Kimbra. Kimbra Swain is Walking Wind. I don't know if this is part of a series, but as we support our authors, just go get their books, support them, spread the word, let other people know. Is Kimbra up there? Oh, that's so good. Okay, it's moving faster everywhere else but here, so that's okay. So please get Kimbra's book. She's one of us. She's a mob author, so please get her book. The latest that she has out is Walking Wind, and there's a Reader Links link, so please grab it. Rachel Carr is next. Who loves Crumley stuff? Somebody loves Crumley stuff. Jim Hickey? Mm-hmm. Awesome. I've only read the Doc Holliday stuff, and that's really good. So I don't know about the Andrew Rufus series, but I recommend anything that Crumley writes, so go grab it. Rachel Carr's up. So Rachel Carr, The Final Girl, Part 1. So I'm guessing there's going to be more parts. There's the link. Don't forget to get Rachel's book. There's another author that we all know. Chris last book is in edits, so keep an eye out for the last book in the Mixed Magic saga, which is coming out very, very soon. So the fact that it's in edits means it's gonna be soon TM. So now that's it. And don't forget, as usual, John Logsdon, Ben Zakheim, Nicole Grotepas, Nasri Noor, all the duo group, and all the other authors that we know. Jonathan Yanes. There's a bunch of authors that are part of our MoB collective that we like to promo and keep front of mind for everyone who's getting books. Oh, Rufus is sort of tied to Doc Holliday. Nice. So it's like a spin-off. Fantastic. For Old Magic, early December. So that's like really soon. It's a few weeks away, guys. So brace yourself for Old Magic. It's the third book in the trilogy, and I'm sure it's going to be fantastic. I mean, it almost. Can I share that it almost had the asteroid ending? Because sometimes these things happen. I'm going to hide this. So let me continue. So, Zazzle. Go to Zazzle. It's the holiday season's coming up. You got Thanksgiving coming up. You got Christmas coming up. You got New Year's coming up. The perfect gift for all those holidays. Ate too much turkey, ate too much food. Something from Zazzle. Christmas coming up. You have people you want to get stuff for. Go to Zazzle and get some swag. The New Year's coming in. We got to usher in the New Year. How do you usher in the New Year? You share it. You usher it in by wearing swag from our Zazzle store. So go to Zazzle, EMANTES, and get some swag and usher in the holidays with Zazzle swag, because that's the best way to do it. Let me tell you. Oh my God, it's so awesome. I almost made myself choke. That's how great the swag is at the Zazzle store. You can get a signed book, and I'll touch upon that in a moment because we do have signed books. If you want to give a signed book for the holidays, how fast do they need to request it? Because it takes a while to get the book, and it takes a while to ship it out.
We have the book we're shipping out Monday, the first batch.
The first batch is being shipped out Monday. It's a nice batch, like 15, 20 books. Yeah.
If you didn't want it earliest, if you have it.
Yeah.
We'll ship it Monday, otherwise it'll be a few weeks.
If you want to get it before the holidays, I would recommend this week start sending Dolly messages, and that's for Christmas. Okay, yeah, that's good, 4 weeks. So if you want a signed book, there's any other books that are in paperback, then this week send Dolly a message, tell her which book, she'll walk you through the process. You can get the book, get it signed, and then we'll ship it out before Christmas. So jump on that now because we're shipping out a batch on Monday. Who's liking the beard? No, someone specifically mentioned it. Chris who? Which Chris?
Jim likes the beard.
Oh, Jim. Is it just for men? No. I like it salt and pepper. I only dyed my beard, I want to say once, which is I dyed it purple, and it was for a marketing thing that I was doing with John Logsdon for Badlands PPD for pre-orders. We got a lot of pre-orders for that one. We got over 400 something pre-orders for that set, for that book. So, and the deal was that if we got over 400 pre-orders, I was gonna dye my beard purple, and so I had to end up dyeing it purple because we got a lot of pre-orders. We got like 450 or something like that for that promotional thing. So I think people just wanted to see my beard purple at the time. I have pictures. Yes, we know a lot of you in the UK, or abroad, Australia and everywhere else. So we're gonna get the international shipping. Dolly's working on getting international shipping done because it's a little more complicated than shipping regionally, shipping in the US, in the continental US. So it's a little more hoops to jump through, a little more work to take to get it out. But she's working on it. So please be patient. Okay. For Patreon, we have new patrons. So Renee Penn increased her pledge. Thank you, Renee. You guys are awesome. And Diane Jackson joined us. So I want a huge shout out to all our patrons. Our next story for Patreon is coming in December, I want to say. So if you'd like to read that story, those stories are exclusive to patrons. And I would hate for you to miss it. So what you can do is sign up to our Patreon page, the Magic Squad, which is awesome, is an awesome name, and you'll have access to the stories that are exclusive for patrons. And that way you won't miss out on anything that's for the patrons. And that page is being curated by Dolly. So here's the link. I think it's so good. It's so cool that this is actually working on a timely basis. So Dolly's curating it. She's kind of managing it. And, so go there, sign up, and then you'll have access. I think, what are we up to in terms of stories now? 10? 13 stories. I don't even know how many stories there are on that. Like 13 stories. They're not long stories. They're short stories. 11? 11 stories. So it's not flash fiction, which is really short. The stories on Patreon are much longer, and the last one was really long. The last one was The Ride. Was that the one? The Ride? With Bug? Yeah. That was because it's Bug. So she took over the story and it became longer than it was supposed to be because Bug does this kind of stuff. So, but it was a great story. I would love for you guys to read it, but you can only read it if you're a patron. So please go sign up to Patreon, or what you can do would be awesome because you're this awesome. You can give someone a Patreon for the Magic Squad. So that would be that's a great gift to give someone for the holidays. So we're back on the holidays. So M&S swag and Patreon Magic Squad. That's considered part of the swag. All right. The e-newsletter. When is the next newsletter coming out? Newsletter person. I can't hear you. They can't hear you. Monday? Really? Monday. The next newsletter is coming out Monday. Awesome. We're on BookBub. So bookbub.com. Just go there and you'll find me. Find the books. Leave a comment. Leave your social proof, your reviews. Hey, I liked it. It was great. Or hey, it could have been better. Or hey, Orlando needs to write faster. Needs to write more, kind of thing. So we're at bookbub.com. There's a profile. Go there. I'll see if I can put it up quickly. There it is. And we're also on Binge Books. So Binge Books has regular promotional things, but they have their author list is growing exponentially. So Binge Books is really getting to be a powerhouse within the indie book world. So go to bingebooks.com, sign up, and find me there. And the same thing, just leave a little blurb, little note. It was great. I like the story. The story could have been longer, so forth and so on. And I think that's it for now. We'll do the book and audio updates a little later. So how are you all doing? I'm in the middle of Shadow Queen, and it's first of all, what did you guys think of Stray Dogs? Let's talk of Stray Dogs. Because Shadow Queen is going in really interesting directions. Let me put the link for BookBub for Binge Books up. Craig, El Dragon, how are you? You're out running errands. Oh, listen, thank you for popping in and just saying hello. It's awesome. Villain's out. The villain is out. So, what did you guys think of Stray Dogs? Because it is a departure from the usual Monty Strong, I guess, type story, and Shadow Queen is proving to be an interesting. I don't want it to kind of meander so much, but it's forcing its way to tell the story very differently from a Monty and Strong story, which is full of explosions and things getting destroyed. Sebastian, so the Treadwell Supernatural Directive is really kind of centered around Sebastian and Tiger, right? They seem to be, I say seem to be because as I'm writing it, I'm also discovering a lot about the story and about the characters, although I know them really well. But when I put them into these situations, it always seems that Sebastian and Tiger are together, and it's very much like It's not a romantic thing because Sebastian has to deal with Regina, which is in this story, right? But it's more like a big brother and a little sister, and he kind of keeps her in check before she eviscerates everyone. So Sebastian is basically a check and balance to Tiger, but Tiger is also kind of like, how would I describe Tiger aside from extremely violent? Tiger is also the she kind of gives Sebastian the push that he needs to do the things that he's supposed to do that he may be reluctant to do. And Tiger makes sure that it gets done. She makes sure that it happens. Yeah, very much mentor and mentee. Who's that? Except that Sebastian's not going to mentor her in the violence that she so easily leans towards. Like she has this predisposition to answer things with violence first, and it's like punch first, ask questions later. Maybe that's Tiger's usual mo. So, and their stories are much. I was joking. My mic died. Is it back? Hello, am I back? Okay. Let me know if you guys can hear me again. It says the mic died. And this is why we're ordering a mic. How about now? Testing. Testing. Awesome. Okay. All right. So Jasmine says, yeah, so Paige, it's very much mentor mentee. Yes, I agree. And no, you're not the only one who lost audio. And welcome, Linda. Jasmine says, I enjoyed Stray Dogs. It was interesting to see a different side of the world and getting to know the characters. They compare a little to Mountain Strong, but definitely, it's hard not to compare it to Mountain Strong because Sebastian and Monty are related, but it's very different worlds. So it's easy to compare, but you have to kind of distinguish between the two worlds. Like Sebastian and the TSD move in a very, very uncommon world. Like they move in the underground. So whereas Monty might do things above board to a certain degree, Sebastian has no qualms, let's say, about doing things underground, doing things that would be considered illegal in a sense, or not exactly kosher, or not exactly the way it's supposed to be done. He doesn't mind like going to Char, for example, or visiting the dungeon, or right now he's at a place where he shouldn't be, but they're gonna, things are gonna happen. That's Sebastian's world, and he's used to it more so than Monty would. Monty would be lost in that world, even though he's to close. I'm gonna see if I'm back. I know I'm back. I'm gonna see if I can close other windows that maybe might be interrupting the mic, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. I'm gonna close some windows. Please stand by. We're having technical difficulties, which is kind of new. Well, not that new, but this mic thing is definitely new. Awesome. Okay, I'm trying to close windows that might be impacting all of this. Because yeah, it's not like I test this stuff before. I really do. It's just crazy. And everything happens once we go live because that's the nature of these things, right? Okay, let's see. No, Anthony, you weren't having a medical issue. Stacy, thank you so much for popping in. I hope your sister, I hope they figure out what's going on and that they have a way to deal with it. Please keep us posted if you can. Okay? Who's saying shh? Oh, shh. Yeah, you can read. Yeah, sure, Anthony. Let's see. What am I saying when you lip read? So I, not the actual author. My wife writes all. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I've never had the sound issue before, but I will say that I'm on a Mac, and I upgraded from High Sierra, which was 10.1, 6.1, to Monterey, which is like 12 point something. And I think I still have more upgrades to do up till they name it some weird name, but I think you have to go up to like 14. So I'm in the midst of, I guess, getting it up to the latest update for the operating system. So that might be one of the reasons why the sound is doing that crazy in and out stuff. You know, I'll get on that and make sure that I'm at the latest. Stacy, may your sister figure out what's going on with the doctors and that everything works out. So with Stray Dogs, so with Shadow Queen, I'm introducing Regina, who's going to put a wrench in everything that they're doing, and it's definitely different. It's a different dynamic, you know. So I have to figure out how to kind of work Sebastian and Tiger, and Sebastian and Regina and Tiger, and Regina and the rest of the directive, because Regina is like the ink, and it's going to be, you know, she's going to be a spoiler for everything. And Tiger and Regina barely tolerate each other, and they're both very strong. So yes, meat is life. Max are better than meat, and therefore Max are life. Yes, the Tower of Anthony. I like that one. I moved away from a regular Windows machine to a Mac because of Vellum, because I was writing in Vellum, and Vellum is an amazing program to write in, and I was writing a lot. So I figured, okay, let me get the Mac, make the investment, and get the Mac. Macs actually to date have given me much less problems than regular Windows. Who's saying hello from London? Hello, Lee, and welcome. Hello from New York City, across the pond. And is it raining in London yet right now? Because it's always raining in London. Yeah, we do have to go back at some point. You know that, right? Go back to London. So with Shadow Queen, I'm about 20% into the book, so it'll be done by next month. You guys will have it, hopefully by the end of next month. It's been an interesting journey so far, and so I'm trying to. It's almost like I'm feeling my way through the story, and then I know it's going to do what it usually does, which is just what Dolly says, that it starts off a little slow and then just takes right off. And that's usually what happens with the story. It's like they start off, you know, you're like feeling your way through, and then all of a sudden the pace, it hits a certain point, and then it just starts racing off into towards the end. It's raining just outside London, yes, because it's London, and it's always raining in London. I discovered this when I went there the last time I went there. I stayed 2 weeks, and you take an umbrella with you every day, everywhere, no matter if the sun is shining. You take an umbrella with you because at some point during the day, it's going to rain. So I was like, what is up with this weather? Really? Heather says, I agree on the Mac thing, even as a PC user. Yeah, I used to build PCs. I was a really, really diehard PC user until I really started writing a lot. And Mac is just so much more versatile for that. So, you know, I figured let me just bite the bullet, switch to Mac. It was a big switch for me because I have everything on my PC, which is actually right here, sitting next to me. It's a laptop, so it's like my backup. But yeah, Mac is much easier for the writing, much easier for the uploading, much easier for graphics. Mac is designed for that kind of stuff. Are there any authors you'd like to co-write a novel with? I'm not big into collaborations. The only collaboration I did was with John Logsdon, and the thing is that my writing process is, I mean, every writer has their own writing process, right? My only issues with collaborations is the actual collaboration when you have to stop and have a kind of conference and what would this person do, what would that person do, and how do you do this, and how would they do this, and how would they react to this, and then I'm gonna write my part, you're gonna write your part, and for me that adds too many steps to the writing process, and it worked really well with John, but I don't know if it would work well with another author. And so, as much as I admire so many authors, I don't think I could get into a writing process with them. I'd have to know them really well. See, like I marvel at the fact that Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett were able to sit down and write Good Omens, because they're just so different as authors. Yet they were able to get together and write that book, and that book is amazing. So, but I don't know if there are any authors I would co-write a novel with because my process is just so different. But I never say never. If one of these authors, comes to me and says, "Hey, let's write a book together," it depends on who the author is. Like if Jim Butcher says, "Let's write a book," like, okay, well, what kind of book do you want to write? Like, does Harry meet Montague and Strong, and do they go out on a story together? That would be kind of fun, right? And how much of New York and Chicago will we leave intact? That's the real question. um, so I don't know who's in an extreme drought. Who's in an extreme drought? You got to go back a little bit. And Audrey's page. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That is not good. Extreme droughts are never good. I hope you get rain soon. Anthony asks, as a reading addict, I burn through great books. Do you feel extra pressure from us to produce quickly? No, I don't. Because I hope that by now, after all the writing that I've done, that I've earned some grace from all you amazing people, right? And so I write pretty fast to begin with, and I write different stories. So I don't, but I know that if I try to rush a story, it wouldn't be the best story. And for me, it's better for me to give you a good story than a quick story that's not the best that it could be. With that caveat, I'm not talking about taking a hiatus of like what I did with Blur, which is 10 years. How nice is that? So I've learned to produce the books quickly, to the best of my ability, as fast as I can write them, and maintain the story to the level that you're used to, but more important, to the level that I'm used to. So if I don't like the way the story's going, I'll stop it and rewrite it to make sure that it matches everything else that I've written. Bye, Jasmine. Please say hello to Stacy for me. Okay. I use Pages on Mac for writing. I love that it has EPUB. Yeah, Mac is it's really powerful. So it's really good for stuff like that. Have you heard of Steve McHugh? I know Steve McHugh. Great British author who does great urban fantasy. Yes, we've spoken. I won't say we're close friends, but we have spoken with each other. His Harlequin Chronicles. I have put it to like this. I have all his books. Even the Black Coat. I have all his stories, and I'm waiting for him to write some more. So for me, my favorite McHugh stories were the Harlequin Chronicles, because those were great stories, and I read them early on. As he was writing them, I was reading them, so I would wait as he got through them. Now you can just get them all, right? So that's a great series if you haven't read it. And the Avalon, they're all great. Steve is a great writer, so I think he's working on something new now. So pick up everything from Steve McHugh. I mean, everything from Steve McHugh is good. Let's see. Who asked me if I ever heard of Steve McHugh? Is that Lee also? Yeah. Choose a. I don't do a choose your own adventure. Sounds too much like lit RPG, and I stay away from lit RPG because it's not me. M&S visit St. Louis? No, they wouldn't be able to visit St. Louis because if you go back a few months, I think it's like the fourth or fifth book. There was an incident at 40 Boutique where they had to shift their plane over, so they wouldn't meet um, anyone the St. Louis made. They wouldn't meet Nate Temple. It wouldn't happen because they're in a different. It's parallel but not the same, so they shifted over, so it wouldn't happen. I don't want to be known as a romance writer, but it would be good to release one that I have done just to get my name out there before my main works that are. Yeah, the Riftboard series. I have the first one. It's good. So who's that Facebook user that doesn't want to be known as a romance writer? So Jillian, the first book you let out, the first book you release is going to initially be what you're known as. What you have to do is write in other genres just as well as you write in the romance. So that way you're not, I don't want to say pigeonholed, but that way you're not constrained to one genre. But whatever you write the most in, that's what you're going to be kind of associated with. Um, I haven't written a romance book, and it's been suggested many times, trust me. But if you start with romance, and you don't want to be known just for romance, your next books have to be something else. Or else, and here's the thing, the romance genre reader is voracious. So if you write romance and then you don't write more romance, they will be asking what's going on. So whatever you write next, you have to let people know that you're going to write something else besides romance. I'm not saying don't write the romance, and maybe you could do both. Maybe you can write romance and write mystery or write something else. But, you know, if you start with romance, understand that you are, as they say, poking that tiger. That's the romance reader group is huge, it's enormous, and it's voracious. So just understand, go in with that understanding that you don't want to lock yourself into one thing, write different things, or use a pen name. That's another thing you can do. Yeah, pen names work. It's just that the only reason I've never done a pen name, I have enough to deal with just managing my name. And so if you're going to do a pen name, it's like having a persona. Now you have to do everything for that persona in addition to your real name. And so it's like double the work. Sometimes you need to do it. Sometimes if you're writing, let's say, erotica or heavy, like really, really deep romance, and you don't want other people to know you're writing it, then pen names are suggested. But I've always had the feeling that sooner or later the pen name gets found out. Sooner or later, someone figures it out or someone leaks it, whatever the case may be. So everyone who's done pen names, eventually, it doesn't happen immediately, but eventually the pen name gets discovered. So you get outed. And now you have a pen name and now you're outed and it's like, so yeah. So, but that's, why MMV. So it depends on how you want to do it and how you want to approach it. Maybe in the beginning you want to have a pen name and then later on let people know that pen name is really me, that kind of thing. That depends on you as a writer. But just understand, if you write romance and you don't want to be locked into romance, write other things as well as the romance. Yes, Steve is writing a Riftborn series, which is really good. I think he's on his third book in the Riftborn series. I read the first two. But that's just as good as the Helcom Chronicles. So Steve is an excellent writer. The Choose Your Own Adventure was about co-authoring. You can write 2 different books. Oh yeah, I've seen those kind of books. There's no way I'm going to do that. It's too much work. That's just too much. So that takes even more working together than a regular book, like a regular story where you're going to write one chapter, I'm going to write one chapter. The Choose Your Own Adventure is the chapters kind of have to all intermesh, which means there's a lot of communication. And if there's one thing you should know about authors and writers, we kind of like to work on our own. We do collaborate, but it's not like to write your own adventure book or choose your own adventure book. You have to. It's more like a program. If then this would happen, and this would happen, and that would happen, and you gotta make sure that it all works well, or it's choose your own misadventure. So, which is another way of, you could do it that way. where you choose this page and it goes to something completely unrelated, and you're wondering, did I choose the right one? So to choose your misadventure. So that takes more communication, it takes more meeting, that takes more collaboration, and that's not me. So I don't see myself doing a choose your own adventure. Let's see, the dimensional shift. So that means that Jim Butcher is now the only one, and there won't be an M&S Blues Brothers cartoon to Chicago. Yeah, probably not. They'd have to come back. Even so, Dan, the awesome one, isn't here. But even when I bring, like, so when they were able to go to Sepia Blues World, it required a plane shift. If you read I won't spoil it, but when they had to go to Sepia Blues World, it wasn't like they could just pop into Central Park. They had to plane shift to end up in her world and then have a conversation with her. So yeah, anytime they're going to meet with anyone, it's going to require a plane shift because they had to shift because of what happened in 4D. And if you know what happened in 4D, you know why they had to shift. So yeah, so that's why they're kind of like they're in their own world, but most of the characters that you see in other books and stories all would require a plane shift of some sort. M&S romance. Oh, dragoness. Oh, ogre. Yeah. Okay, no, Anthony. Calm yourself. Carrie says she's using a pen name for the children's book to avoid confusion. Yeah, sometimes you have to do that too. And sometimes it's good to do that to establish yourself in a different genre under a different name. It's like a blank slate. So no one associates that name with anything from any writing in the past. So you're starting fresh, which is not a bad idea also. Just thinking about those round robins we did in English class in middle and high school. I didn't do round robins. What are the round robins that you would do? Round robins sound like when they sing and when you sing alternate. Yeah. Oh. Was I heard?
have no idea where it's going.
Right. Okay. We used to do that. So, because I'm associating that with the singing, like when people sing in that method of singing where one person starts and then another person comes in and starts like at the first verse, but it's a round. Ah, okay. Gotcha. I learned something new today. Um, yeah, we used to do that in the mob where one person would start a sentence or story with a sentence, and then anyone else could add to it, and you just kept adding, and the story would just keep growing, and you didn't know where the story was going. So maybe we'll bring that back to the mob because we used to do that in the early days, really early days, so everyone could have something to do and it'd be fun. So Dracula Central Park is not M&S Central Park. No, different Central Park. Monty and Strong do enough plane jumping and plane traveling that they could visit any of these places, which is part of why I put it in the book, right? Or in the books. So that it's an option. But I didn't want to have it where it was a constant because then it just creates conflicts. You know, it's this Central Park, the Central Park that's over here, is it? So they have their own, they're in their own plane and they can go to any other plane, but they have their own plane, which makes life easy for me as the author, you know? So that's why it's done that way. And the good thing about writing the PPD was that I wasn't bringing M&S into the Badlands. The Badlands was its own contained area, and it was connected to the PPD, to the rest of the PPD, but it was just kind of its own place. So that kind of made it easier for me to write in that world with John because then it was just we're confined to this location, which was a big place. It's a whole world, but I didn't have to worry about are they going to bump into Monty and Strong? Are they going to bump into Ezra? Are they going to bump into any of the characters that exist in the M&S world? So, and we didn't have to worry about other PPD worlds, really. The precincts were connected in a sense, but the Badlands was separate from all the other precincts. So, yeah. And it's all about making it easy for the author. Yeah, I have enough to kind of keep control and track of that I'm not adding other things like potential crossovers or the potential conflicts that might arise as something I don't want to have to worry about it. Yeah, Ezra would visit on some version of Ezra would exist on every plane, because it's Ezra and Ezra exists everywhere, right? Because eventually everything dies. So some personification of Ezra would exist on every plane. It's like having, yeah, it's nice having a plane port in your back pocket. It's really good. And Dex is a teleportation master, but the room in the Moscow, excuse me, where they live, opens to other planes. If you haven't noticed by now, and so they can go anywhere they really want to or need to. So, and it's gonna be fun because we're going to Peru in the next book in Corpse Road. I can't say any more than that, but we're going to Peru, and yeah, it's gonna be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to it. M&S do get referenced by other authors. So I hear, which is very, very flattering. I'm always surprised, really surprised when other authors reference M&S. And it never bothers me, really. It's like, I think it's really awesome that, you know how they say flattery is, or what is it, imitation is the best form of flattery. I've read some stories that I know were directly influenced by Monty and Strong. And I know some authors, and I know them personally, who requested that they be allowed to put M&S in their stories, which I'm like always like, go for it. That's awesome, you know? So I think it's great. I think it's like fantastic. And I'm of the same opinion as other authors. Like, just don't make the characters look contrary to how they are in their stories, because you don't want to do that to another person's work. You always want to show it in its best light, you know? So yeah. I think Ezra Wood, he has a shadow in the world on right. There you go. So yeah. Spoiler question: how does Ezra get along with the Morgan and vice versa? Everyone gets along with Ezra. You don't have a choice. So there's different things with Ezra, right? In terms of the personification of death and why he's in that particular form in the stories, right? But if you notice Ezra certain times when he speaks, he says everyone has a last conversation with me. Everyone and everything has a last conversation with me. So it's not a matter of getting along with him in terms of the Morrigan, who's a death goddess, has a much closer relationship with Ezra than, let's say, someone else, like a regular person. So a goddess like the Morrigan would have a closer, friendlier relationship because what she does is directly linked to who he is. So it's two very different things in that sense, but they have a closer relationship. Just like Dex being the harbinger of death is different from being Uncle Dex. So it's a different relationship. So that's not a spoiler question. It's just something that you start to understand as the stories go on. And now that, can I say this? Now that Simon has an interesting relationship with the Morgan or with Bad Kaffa, how that relationship interlocks with Ezra is going to be an interesting dynamic. See how that works out. That's great. Have to wonder if you'll get in fan fiction done from. I don't know. Listen, fan fiction is fun. I don't know if people will go that far, but yeah, I I'm not a big fan of fan fiction in the sense that I'd rather the person who's writing the fan fiction write their own stories. Fan fiction is great for beginning writers sometimes because it helps them work in an established world and lets them kind of play in that sandbox. But you can't stay in that sandbox for long. For a lot of writers, I want to say aspiring writers, but I don't really like that word because it's not aspiring, you're a writer. But a lot of writers stay in other people's sandbox because it's a coping mechanism against the fear of putting your original work out there. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put in someone else's sandbox, and it's safe because it's already established. Whereas if you take the risk to create your world, to create your characters, you grow more as a writer because your work is never going to be the same as that writer's work because you're borrowing characters. Whereas you can create your own characters, your own world, your own interactions, and your characters will grow and you will grow and you become established as a writer. So fan fiction is great in the sense that it gets you to, make your bones, as they say, and to kind of get into that writing feel. But eventually you gotta leave the nest. You gotta get out of that sandbox and you gotta write your own stuff because that's the way to grow as a writer. That's my opinion. That's not law. It's just my opinion. Anthony says the reason I asked the Ezra question is that most of the deities we encountered in M&S are death related. There may be a theme here. Let's see. Kali is definitely death related. Hades is definitely death related. There's some deities that you've met that are in the, there are some deities that are in the M&S world, but they have not revealed themselves as deities. So yeah, but there are some there. And don't forget that if Hades is there, you have to assume that the rest of the pantheon is somewhere around. Same thing with all the Valkyries. That means that you're gonna run into Odin at some point, because the Valkyries aren't gonna be there just hanging out. They're only there because Odin lent them. I think that was discussed early on when you saw Valkyries in Hades' office. So they're there. It just doesn't. It's not prominent yet. Heather says, I can say getting out of that sandbox can be difficult. I think it's way more than difficult. It's monumentally hard. I think it's so much. It's easy to write in a sandbox that's already established, right? It's another reason why I don't do collaborations too much. Well, I've only done one collaboration, so I don't want to say too much, right? But one of the reasons I don't do collaborations is because when you write a shared world, you are forever joined to that person to write those stories, unless at some point you have an agreement that says, I'm going to continue writing in this world, but without you. And that can create conflict. I've seen it create conflict with writers who've collaborated. So I don't want to ever get into that kind of situation. Also, I like my characters being my characters. So that's why I don't write in anyone else's sandbox, because I like the characters that I create to be my characters. If I write in someone's sandbox, they're never really my characters. They're my take on certain characters, but they're not my characters. I can write great. I've had great Batman stories. I don't write them because Batman is not my character, and it's just that. And any character that I would model that way, it easily points back to Batman. So why would I? I can create another character that'll be different and it'll be mine. So there's that also. Let's see. Brad Magnorella does. Yeah, he does. I think he made a reference to M&S in his books. It was awesome. And he showed it to me. Wonderful comments and true. I wonder if you can trick your mind into writing fan fiction of your own world story. For me to do that, I would just do a story. To write fan fiction of my own work, it's just like double work. I would just write another story. It's like that one time Stephen King did in the last big series that he did. He wrote about an author who got hit by a van, and he basically what he did is he wrote himself into his series, and it wasn't really well received. So I don't think I'd ever do that. I don't think I'd like write fan fiction of my own work. It would be hard to do. It would be. Ezra does not choose who dies; he collects them. Yes, he doesn't. He doesn't go around choosing people to die. He just makes sure they they got to move on. That's what Ezra does. And who's going to stand up against Ezra? Really, this just doesn't happen. So, as powerful as these deities may be, Ezra is the last authority that they're going to meet, because even gods can die. No god is safe, right? That's a great title. Maybe I should use it. Though, yeah, you don't. The character that does breaking the fourth wall really well, I would say, is Deadpool. Characters like that, and that's already been established. But I don't break the fourth wall in my stories because it's not required, it's not necessary, and it's not a device that I would use in my stories. If I were to write a story that broke the fourth wall, that's a complete tangent, a complete deviation from what I usually write. It'll be different. Not sure what I mean. About what? Facebook user? Oh, yeah. Well, crossing the fourth wall, breaking the fourth wall, as it's known in film, is when the characters in the movie or in the film or whatever actually address the audience and then speak to the audience. So if you ever watch a Deadpool movie, he does that all the time. That's basically his character. He's talking to the audience. He'll talk to everyone in the movie, obviously, but he speaks to the audience. He includes the audience So it's kind of like this little thing between Deadpool and the audience, and basically that's breaking the fourth wall. It's an interesting device, and it can be used. Who used it really well? So if you ever watch the old Twilight Zone episodes, Rod Serling, when he began every episode, he was breaking the fourth wall because he'd go, "Picture this," and then he'd explain what the episode is going to be about. He's speaking to us, the audience, and so in Twilight Zone, sometimes they would pan away from the main characters, and in the corner would be Rod Serling with a glass of whiskey and a cigarette in the scene, and then he'd explain, you know, Peter Smith, last man on the planet, kind of thing. Imagine this, and so he'd explain things to the audience. That's breaking the fourth wall. Yeah, Hudson Hawk does it too. And Heather, you're completely right. All of us eventually end up having coffee in a Danish or a fantastic pastrami sandwich with Ezra. Yep. Known as an aside, yeah, I've heard it called that. Saved by the Bell, the TV show, used to do that all the time. The main character, the blonde guy, he used to speak to the audience all the time. The Office, if you like The Office, whether it's the UK version or the American version, they had moments where they would speak to the audience. Modern Family does that, right? Modern Family has them sit on the couch and then explain things, and they're speaking to the audience. So it's not an unknown device. It just has to be used really well. Henry Lamar, yeah. So again, this is not new. This has been around. I'm sure Shakespeare had moments where the main character spoke to the audience. I'm pretty sure that existed. Okay, we gotta get to questions. Fortunately, it's not like too many, but we gotta get to them. So Ezra is the ultimate fourth wall breaker. Yes. Yeah, even when who was he speaking to? He was speaking to Hell, not the place, the goddess, and again another death goddess. There is a trend here somewhere, Anthony. And basically, he was explaining. Oh, he was explaining how Hell was explaining how Odin didn't fear him or didn't, and Ezra was like very nonchalant. Eventually, he's gonna have to speak to me anyway, because eventually everyone speaks to me. Everyone has a conversation with me. Ezra's very confident and very cool about his thing. No one's gonna beat him. They may delay him and they may sidetrack him, but no one's going to defeat him. So yeah. All right, going to the questions. Here we go. I won't be able to see the questions. I won't be able to see the screen, but I'm going to the questions. Okay, and if you have questions, this is the time to put them into the comments, okay? All right. Questions this week are provided by Audrey. Thank you, Audrey. Great questions. I read them at the beginning of the show, but I haven't answered them, so I'm going to answer them now. First question is, Orlando, how has your writing process changed since your first published book? Wow, that's a great question. My first published book, Spiritual Warriors, I would go to Starbucks for hours at a time, and with yellow legal pads like these, let me show you. I have an example here. Like these, yellow legal pads like this, right? A book would take a bunch of yellow legal pads. I would write the book longhand. And if you've ever seen my handwriting, that's a torture I wouldn't wish on anyone, to have to read that. Then I would give that yellow pad, right? I would give it to Dolly, who would then transcribe it, type it up. So yes, I gave. I wouldn't wish that torture on anyone now. My handwriting's probably got much worse, except Dolly. Back then, I gave it to her. Now I wouldn't give it to her now because I know my handwriting has gotten worse, right? Because everything is typed. So I would give her those yellow pads, and she would transcribe it on the computer, and then she would also edit as she was doing that. You would edit too. Yes, and that's what was my first. That was how the process was in the beginning. Spiritual Warrior. Now, I type it because she couldn't. We had the kids. She was busy. Her schedule was crazy. So now I type it to make her life easy. I still give her pages. I give her like what I'm writing. As I'm writing it, I give it to her. She reads it, still edits it, and then it goes to the art, and then it goes to an editor. So there's a lot of passes, and then I get it back again, and I have to re-edit. So it's a much longer process in terms of how many passes, but the book comes out much cleaner. And I've been working on commas Have my comments gotten better? My comments have gotten better here. So I've been trying to work on being conscious of where certain grammatical things go. But I'm writing really fast sometimes. And so I don't even put in apostrophes. I'm just putting the words in, writing. I'm trying to, my fingers are trying to keep up with my brain. And that's not always very easy to do. So I'm going to start practicing. I'm going to get a typing program, to see if I can increase my typing speed and do it that way, because it'll help me be able to write faster. So yeah, so that's the difference in terms of the first published book to now. It's very different.
Vivian has a related question.
Okay.
Do you have an overall outline or something for your entire series, or do you come up with most of your book's material individually?
I have something for the entire series, right? And right now, currently, it's loose because currently the series is sitting at 40 books. I don't know what happens after 40 books, but we'll see. But then in each individual book within that series, there are tweaks and turns and twists that might change the book differently, may make it different from the original intended story. So, like the last three books, which was Lost Runes, Entropy, Archimage, Lost Runes, Archimage, Entropy, they weren't going to be a mini trilogy, but I linked them because of what happened in Broken Magic, and so it led into creating a mini trilogy, or a trilogy, but a mini arc within the overarching arc of the series, which is fun, but also kind of, I gave myself extra work because it was really like, I'm going to create this little arc within a bigger arc because of what happened in the previous book, and it's a lot of ping ponging back and forth. So yes, I have an outline that's loose for the series, but then I have very specific things for each book, and that's subject to change depending on the book. Sometimes, as you guys have heard, the book goes feral and characters come up that I didn't expect to come up. Like, I didn't create Elias Kern until I think this in the actual story. I needed a head of security, and I needed a sorcerer. I needed someone badass, and I needed a guy whose name was Elias. And it's like, yeah, this is it, perfect. And there was no way I could anticipate that. There are a lot of things in the series that exist that I could anticipate before actually writing the series. There were certain things that were definitely going to be in there, like Monty, Simon, Peaches, Ramirez is part of it. There were a lot of characters that were there from the beginning. Kali, the concept of immortality, the concept of a mage. Those things were bedrock. They were foundational. But there are a lot of things that came up out of that 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 were created organically as the story progressed. Likewise, the stories that came out of the Montague and Strong series, or the spin-offs, there was no way I could have anticipated that. These characters just came. Even Treadwell that I'm writing it now came out of came out of Lost Runes. So it's like that. So you need to have an outline, kind of a general direction map, but you have to be able to have a lot of detours on that map. At least, again, for me. Orlando. That was so Dolly's the next question. Thank you for that question, though. What is your favorite underappreciated book? From Audrey.
Hi, Audrey. I suppose you're asking about a fiction book. I cannot really answer that since most of the books I read are nonfiction.
There you go. So that's the question. That's the answer. Most of the books that she reads are like business related, things to do with the kids, things, psychology, stuff like that. So, yeah. So that's the answer. That's it? Final answer?
That's it.
Final answer. Okay. Next question from Audrey. What was your hardest scene to write? Depends on the time frame. So any scene where I kill Peaches is a hard scene to write. But the last time I killed Peaches, because I never really killed Peaches, I learned after the first time. But the last time that I had to write a full Peaches death, it was hard because we had just lost Winter, our dog, prior to that. So writing that scene in Entropy, because our dog died in August of this year, and then writing Entropy was after that. So writing that scene in Entropy was the hardest scene to write, just because it was too close to when we had just lost our dog recently. So that was the hardest thing for me to write. Other than that, I don't think I have any other hard scenes to write. So most of them are okay. Or anytime Simon has to go through, not pain, but when he has to go through like an awakening, and he has to realize certain things that have to happen, certain things that have happened, his role in certain things, and he comes. The thing about Simon is that he comes across as dense, that he doesn't know what's going on. It's not that he's dense; he's just ignorant. He doesn't know this world. So sometimes I have to write things in a way to explain them to someone who doesn't know that this world exists. And so that's sometimes hard to do because it's not a given that he would understand. So sometimes he comes across as like, duh, you should know this by now. But it's not that simple because he wasn't raised in the world that Monty was raised. So something that's common knowledge to Monty is not common knowledge to Simon. So those things can be hard to write. But the hardest thing to write was anytime the emotional impact of Simon losing Peaches, like that last scene where he has to explain to Peaches that he may not be coming back. I hope I'm not spoiling it because by now everyone should have read it. But when he has a conversation with Peaches and he realizes that this conversation may be the last conversation he has with Peaches, that's a hard scene to write. That was a really hard scene to write. Mavis Beacon. That's exactly what I was thinking. I used Mavis a long time ago, and that's what got me into typing on my finger, typing on keyboards. So I might have to go back. Who has to go? And happy Thanksgiving to them. Somebody had to go. Well, happy Thanksgiving had to go. I think it was Jim. Bye, Jim. Happy Thanksgiving. Anthony asked. We still have a little bit of time. Okay, we have time. How do I get into a flow state? Ooh, that's a good one. Let me see if there's any other question. Yeah, at the bottom. All right. Okay, how do I get into a flow state? For me, so what I do is I look at all the news. Dolly can pretty much tell you by now. I look at all the news. I get all that stuff out of my head. And sometimes I don't even do that. I don't even look at news. I don't even look at world events or whatever. I just get to the book, whatever work in progress I'm at, and I get my music going, and I just dive in. So Dolly will just be hearing clicks in the background. And what I do is I usually read what I wrote previously. So the previous time I sat down to write, I'll read it. I'll start reading it. And then what happens is, oh, I got to change that and change that. Oh, I got to add this. I got to add this. Oh, this is going to be important later. And as I start doing that, it's like one thing links to another thing, links to another thing, links to another thing. All of a sudden, I'm flowing because I'm in the story again. So I'll read the previous work. And it's not that I'm making major edits because I don't edit while I'm writing. What I do is I'll read it, and what I call it robustifying. I'm robustifying the previous day's work. I'm adding stuff, maybe taking something away, maybe wording it a different way. So I'm robustifying. As I keep robustifying, I just get into writing the story, flowing into the story. So that's how I get into the flow. I usually have my coffee. Dolly makes my coffee, so I usually have my coffee, and I'm at my desk. So where you sit to work is just as important as how you do it. So you want to have your area kind of scoped out. I could work pretty much anywhere, but this is right now it's the most comfortable place for me to work. In my area, if you've seen the control center, there are pictures around that it's like, whoa, it's dedicated to writing. Yeah. Let's see. Bye, Connie. Oh, Connie left. Bye, Connie. Take care. Have a great weekend. All right, let's see. That's another question. Losing a dog is hard, Audrey. Yeah. This is my second dog that I've lost in my life. And the reason why it's taking so long because it was so hard to get over the first one. And I promised myself I was never getting another one. I got another one. And I'm saying the same thing now. I'm never getting another one. We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, Facebook user says, has anything ever come up that changes the original outline to the point where it actually breaks that outline and you have to change it a lot? Yes. I have a book called The General Contractor, which is sitting somewhere in a file, in an actual file, not like on a computer, in a file, because back then I was writing longhand. That eventually became Blur. But it had changed so much and it radically changed and it was no longer could be the general contractor. It had to be Blur. And so, yeah, that's one example. I don't think I've had it since then because I'm trying to be very deliberate about my outlines and the stories that I'm going to tell. So they can't do a 180 on me like that anymore. But that one story, I kind of had so many ideas going at once that it just upended everything. That was like the worst case of a story going feral to the point where I lost control of it and had to become something else. Yeah. But yeah, but it could happen at any point. Like I was writing Nightmare. Yeah, I was writing Nightmare Sepia, book 3, and I got the first few chapters of the first treatment of Monty and Strong in the middle of writing Sepia. I got Monty and Strong. It just came to me. I started writing it, and it was such a nag that I had to write it just to get it out of my head because it wouldn't leave me alone. And so I got it out, and then when I showed it to John and I showed it to other people, I was like, "You got to stop whatever you're doing and write this story now." And that became 2 Yards and Butterflies. So that's not an outline going out in a different direction. That's a story coming at you out of nowhere, and I can guarantee you this much. I can guarantee you will get plenty of ideas when you're writing, when you're working, as you're doing stuff. You get plenty of ideas. Don't try to shut them out. What I think the best thing you can do is get those ideas out of your head, write them down somewhere, and then continue what you're doing. Finish what you're doing. What's the old saying? Finish what you start, right? So I was writing Sepia. I got Monty Strong, so that was kind of a tangent because it was like a 20-something book tangent. But then I went back to Sepia and finished the series. It took 4 years between book 3 and book 4 and 5, but I finished it. Now I'm gonna do the same thing with Blur, and that was like 10 years. And Blur is a little bit different because I don't know how many readers will even remember Blur, but I'll bring it back so people can get into it. I make it sound so easy. Who says this? It sounds easy. It's not easy at all. At all. At all. It sounds easy, and I'm only saying it sounds easy because I'm on this side now. When I started, it was very, very hard. It was monumentally difficult. I didn't know what I was doing. And I can't even say I know what I'm doing now. A lot of what a writer does, a lot of what any author does is hard to explain. You don't know where you get your ideas from. Ideas will come at you from all over the place, from everywhere. And you'll notice them or you'll pick them up. A name will stand out to you. An image will stand out to you. And you just have to be receptive enough to catch it and say, okay, this could be something. There's something to this. I could put this in a story, or I can make a story out of this. And that's just, it sounds easy, but it's not. And a lot of times you don't have control over that aspect of the authorship of writing. A lot of it is very, I don't want to say it's woo woo, but it's ephemeral. It comes from, you don't know where it comes from because no author can tell you ideas come from X. That doesn't happen. You don't know where the ideas come from. But if you're open and receptive to ideas, and more importantly, if you're working on something, this is the strangest thing. Whenever I'm in the middle of a project, or middle of writing something, middle of getting something ready, that's when I get the best and the most ideas for other projects. So it's basically to derail you. So what you do is you take those other ideas because you're in the middle of one right now and you're writing it. You take those, put them to the side, say, I'll get right back to you. Let me finish this story and then we'll talk. And that's what you do. And you do that enough times and you have a lot of stories to tell. But just understand that when you get started writing or whatever it is you're creating, you will get other ideas. You will. How do you know which ideas will work? And how long do you pray before you decide it's not going to be viable? Okay, so there's this great exercise that John Logsdon gave me, which I always share. And this is very particular to writing, obviously, right? Because that's what I do. If you're writing and you have characters, put your characters in mundane situations, okay? And you start getting to know them, and you start seeing how they go shopping, how they do laundry, how they go to the supermarket, how they clean their house. Just what you would consider most mundane I won't say boring, but the most plain situations that you can put them in, daily life stuff, right? If the character is a viable character, if the story is a viable story, because the story will start coming to you out of the character, right? Then you'll see immediately. You'll start interacting with this character in a way where it could grow, and you'll learn more, and and you'll reveal more of the character, and you'll start saying, okay, I can see this character doing this, or this character would never say that. They would be like this, and they stand for this, or they're against that. And as you progress doing that, and it's a really good exercise to do, even if you do it in your head, and it's even better if you write it down. But as you start doing that, you start getting to know your character. You start realizing that I can put this character in a conflict, and I can start having them resolve the conflict or be subject to a conflict, and you'll see if it's worth, writing a story, if it has legs, as they say. You play with that for a while. That depends on you individually. Like I knew Monty and Simon were viable as characters the moment I started writing about Monty and Simon. I knew they were viable. So now I needed a conflict. I needed to kind of put them in something that would showcase who they were. And I didn't write No Gotta Save first. I wrote Two Millions and Butterflies first. And very much like the whole Michigo and Simon holiday meet request, it was a lot of how did Simon and Monty meet? How did it happen? What was it? How did they first come together? And so I wrote that after some time, you know. But by that time I already knew the characters. I knew Monty and Simon so well that creating a story of how they met, because I knew it was important, but I didn't do it right away. I wanted to really get to know them even more before I shared that initial origin story of how Monty and Simon got together. And like Chris is saying, characters drive a story. For me, characters drive a story. If you don't, you can have the best story, but if you don't like the characters, the story's going to suffer. But you can have a lackluster story and fantastic characters, and that story is like, I can't wait to that. I can't wait. So you've read it. You've done this in books. You're reading a book that may have 3 or 4 characters, but there's one character that you can't wait to see what happens next. And so you'll kind of skim what the other characters are doing until you get back to that main character that you like. Characters drive the story. For me, and for a lot of writers, but character drives the story. All right, wow, it's 12:45. Jeez, we gotta. It's time. It goes by so quick. It felt like this time it felt long between mobs. This time it felt long. But characters, remember characters drive the story, and now we have to kind of close this episode because the time has come. I hope I answered all your questions to your satisfaction. If you still have questions, you can feel free to PM Dolly. I'm sorry. Feel free to send me an email. Don't PM Dolly. She's got enough to deal with. Really, don't. Send me a message. Send me an email. I will answer your question. If it's a question that I have the answer to, I will answer the question right away. If it's a question I don't have the answer to, I will find someone who has the answer and get you an answer. So if you have questions and you find yourself stuck somewhere, don't hesitate to ask. Really, just ask. I've been doing this now. Wow, is it 10 years? Is it 11? 10 or 11? 10?
That's what year?
2012. 2012. 11 years. So I've been doing this about 11 years. So I have a little bit of experience. Okay? So I can give you insights from my tiny amount of life experience. Have a great Thanksgiving. Those of you that eat turkey, have a great turkey day. If you don't eat turkey, have a whatever you eat day. Enjoy it. Don't eat too much. Um, More importantly, it's Thanksgiving. It's something that we do every Monday, right? It's a gratitude day. So take that day. That's one day out of the year, although we do it every Monday. And truly give thanks for everything that you have, everything that you're capable of. You're still healthy. You can get up in the morning. You have your family. You have everything that you have. Give thanks and really make it a Thanksgiving. Don't just eat turkey. Give thanks for your family. Give thanks for your health. Just give thanks, right? Have a great weekend. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Yeah, okay, Anthony. There's one last thing. What about the idea, like social justice or changing? What if that's the thing you want to deal with? Well, that's you need to narrow down the big ideas. You need to narrow it down to something that you can deal with and manage, and that your character can deal with. And if you really, who's that Facebook user? Is that Jillian? Jillian Jules, if you want to pursue that, send me a DM PM, and then I can give you a little bit more about that. All right, I want to wish you guys all a great weekend. Thanks so much for being here. You guys make these mob episodes, Kaffeeklatsch, is so amazing and awesome. One day we'll be doing this in a different format that you guys can really, really interact even more, which would be fantastic. And the 3 B's: be kind, right? Be unstoppable, and be uncommon. You guys have a great, great weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Our next mob is December 1st. Okay? And did we touch on everything? I think we touched on everything. Yeah. If not, we'll touch on it in December. Have a happy Thanksgiving, guys. Take care. Bye.